Welcome to another episode of the Dope Student Podcast.
Hi, my name is Julia.
And hi, my name is Noah.
And welcome back to the Dope Student Podcast episode. On this episode of the Dope Student Podcast, we sit down with a man whose life journey defines the word perspective. Our Seth Williams is a former district attorney of Philadelphia and currently the president and CEO of a Second Chance Strategies. From working as an assistant district attorney, inspector general, and Army JAG officer to facing incarceration and returning to the community as a GED instructor and a prison reform advocate. Mr. Williams brings a powerful, honest, and necessary voice to the table. He is a passionate believer in the value of vocational education, workforce readiness, and critical thinking for young people. Today, we'll explore what it means to truly learn from life, build resilience, and turn setbacks into second chances. Mr. Williams, you've had some powerful positions, including being Philadelphia's elected district attorney. What first made you want to become a lawyer?
I think I've wanted to be a lot of different jobs over my lifetime. I wanted to be an architect when I was a little kid because the father on the Brady Bunch was an architect. Then I wanted to become a doctor, but I had some problems in high school with math. So I thought I could help people by becoming a lawyer. So I went to law school in hopes of coming back to Philadelphia and helping people, both the victims of crime, people that had problems with housing, economic issues, but to use the law as a way to help uplift people.
Mm-hmm.
You've been on both sides of the legal system. As a DA and as someone who's experienced incarceration, how has that changed your views on crime, punishment, and rehabilitation?
It's a very good question, Noah. I think I have a singularly unique perspective on the American criminal justice system. I was an orphan. I lived in an orphanage. But later, I became an assistant district attorney, so I prosecuted cases. I was a criminal defense attorney. I defended people that were charged with crimes. I was a law school professor. I was in the Army for 19 years as a lawyer, both prosecuting and defending people. I became the first African-American district attorney in the history of Pennsylvania, the history of Philadelphia. So I have a wide range of experience. And then later, I was prosecuted. Before I was a district attorney, I really thought that we really needed to address the causes of crime, not just after people have committed crimes and then dealing with them, but addressing the root causes, improving education, improving opportunity for people. But once I got to prison and I really saw how people aren't given we have to address what are known as the criminogenic needs, the things that cause people to commit crimes. And that really wasn't being done in prison. And so that really just opened my eyes. It's one thing to read textbooks about what should be done, and it's another thing to actually live it. And so while I was in prison, I actually taught GED to people that hadn't gotten their high school diplomas. I taught GED. I taught workforce development. I learned how to play the saxophone. I became the beginner saxophone instructor in prison. I taught classical poetry. And it was just an amazing experience for me to learn from the people that I was with. And I think one of the greatest things that I learned was that most of the people there were very intelligent. Mm-hmm. They hadn't gone to Penn State, they'd gone to the state pen. They hadn't gone to Yale, they'd gone to jail. But they were very intelligent, and most of them were entrepreneurs. But they had applied their skills in a way that brought them into conflict with the government, if you understand what I'm saying. But the greatest lesson I learned was that most of them never had problems getting jobs. They always had a job somewhere in addition to whatever their side hustle was that brought them into prison. They had problems keeping jobs. So the greatest lesson for me was that I thought when I got home, I could do more to prevent crime, to reduce recidivism. That's the rate of people who get arrested over and over and over, by teaching people what people often refer to as the soft skills. Here at Mayfair CTE, people are learning great vocational skills, the hard skills of plumbing and carpentry and masonry. Those are great skills to have. But in addition, 85% of the skills we need any day in the workplace have nothing to do with the actual skills of the job. It's how do you get along with people? Do you show up on time? How do you take direction? How do you take correction, constructive criticism? Those are the things that really allow people to thrive in the workplace and in life.
What inspired you to create Second Chance Strategies, and what impact are you hoping it has in communities like ours?
All right. Well, I'm hoping to provide a pathway, a pipeline to employment for people that are returning from prison, for people that are chronically unemployed, for homeless veterans. 40% of all people that come home from prison get rearrested in 1 year. 64% get rearrested in 3 years. 80% get rearrested in 8 years. The three things that have the greatest impact on reducing recidivism are education, people getting their GED or some sort of vocational certifications. 2, substance abuse disorder treatment, helping people that have addictions to drugs or alcohol or some sort of behavioral pattern. And the third is spiritual formation. Only 14% of all people who come home from prison get rearrested that they spend 1 hour a week in spiritual formation. That could be praying to baby Jesus, grown man Jesus, Muhammad, Allah, whoever you want to pray to, Old Testament. And so it's my hope to try to address the needs that people have, remove the barriers that they have to gaining employment, and to help them thrive by teaching them what I call the power skills of conflict de-escalation, time management, financial literacy, right? So many people that I've come into contact with never had a bank account. They don't know the value of how to create a budget. So those are the skills that I'm hoping to teach people, because I always told people, my father was a school teacher. He ran a recreation center at night. He ran a day camp every summer. And I tell people he did much more to prevent crime and reduce recidivism than I'll ever do, because he made a direct impact on the lives of students, like Mr. Jarrett does here with the students at Mayfair CTE. And so I hope to provide more of a direct assistance to people with the needs they need so they don't continue the revolving door of prisons.
Why do you think vocational education and workforce readiness training are so important right now, especially for Black and brown youth in Philly?
That's a phenomenal question. And I think it's very important because, one, I think education you have to get as much education as possible, no matter what you want to do with life. But everybody isn't, so going to college is great, but having a skill, getting a nationally recognized portable certification like an HVAC or welding or plumbing, this type of education that you've experienced at Mayfair CTE, one, helps you with problem solving, right? It helps you with teamwork. It helps you gain confidence. But also it can lead to a career path where, Julia could work, she can get her HVAC certification and work at Noah HVAC for 2 years, and then go open up her own Julia HVAC and use her own entrepreneurial skills with those vocational skills and create a real career path, a real business that she owns. She can employ her friends, right? Mm-hmm. So I think vocational training is very, very important because we need to look at what are the jobs, what are the things that are needed in Philadelphia, right? We need roofs to be made. We need housing for people. We need people that can fix cars. Everybody wants to have air conditioning, right? It's hot. It was hot yesterday. It was. When it's cold in the winter, you want the heat to work. So we need people that can do those things, and if you're a person that can learn those skills, you can always find a way to provide for yourself and your family.
You've emphasized the importance of thriving, not just getting a job, but keeping it and growing. What key skills help young people do that?
That's great. So one, I think you have to learn how to resolve conflict in a healthy way. I was a district attorney in Philadelphia, right? Mm-hmm. I prosecuted people. I also defended people who shot and killed people, right? And most homicides in Philadelphia are the result of an argument. People learning how to resolve conflict in the workplace will help you keep your job. And we have to learn the skills. The greatest ability is availability. Show up, right? The three of you are part of this Dope Student Podcast. But if either one of you hadn't shown up, we couldn't do the show. And so you might be worried, oh, am I going to pronounce the words right? Well, the biggest thing was you got here. So teaching people those skills to show up, how to de-escalate conflict, how to be resilient, how to not give up. The greatest lessons I've learned in life, you mentioned a lot of great accomplishments of mine.
Yes.
But I actually learned more from my failures in life. So when you have a failure or a setback, don't let it keep you out of the game forever, but learn from it and move forward. And it's in those experiences that I know I have grown and gained the most.
You've taught in prisons and mentored countless students. What's something you've learned from your students that surprised you or stuck with you?
That's a great question. One of the things is that I generally, while I go to teach, I probably get taught more from my students than they teach me. And so I think it's taught me to always remain humble and to remain open for the possibilities that in any given situation, you can learn from other people. And so that's one of the greatest things that I learned. But I also, like I mentioned earlier, my answer earlier was the answer for now, really, in some ways. The greatest lesson I learned from my students was that most of them were incredibly intelligent. They might not have understood Shakespeare, right, or different types of Newton's laws of whatever things that are in textbooks, but were very intelligent. And we just needed to try to find out what that person needs to be able to learn and to grow. People learn in different ways. Some people need to look at things visually. Some people need to listen audiologically. Some people need to do things experientially. They need to use their hands and do things. And we have to incorporate all three of those things to teach people. But I really learned specifically from being in prison not to judge people just by their outward appearances. Mm-hmm. And that I have to really get to know people for who they are. And that was the greatest lesson that I learned from them.
You've had an incredibly public fall and come back. What advice would you give to young people who's made mistakes but wants to change their life?
That's great. Well, I learned when I lost everything that when God was all I had, God was all I needed. So that was one of the greatest lessons for me. But what I would tell students is that you need to experience lots of different things, right? You're going into ninth grade, both of you, and you might think you want to go do this thing. I would say experience lots of different things, volunteer, be interns in lots of different careers. It's more important for you to learn what you don't like than it is for you to learn what you do like. But you're going to make mistakes. You're going to fail. I played the saxophone in church on Sunday with our jazz ensemble. Now, all of these were phenomenal musicians. I am a self-taught saxophonist. I am not good, okay? And I got outside of my comfort zone just to try to play, and we played a famous song called Amazing Grace. And I was nervous. And along the way, when I would play sometimes, people would laugh at me or make fun of me, right? You have to be willing sometimes to make mistakes, to learn and grow from them. But the greatest lessons, like I said, I've had in life, after I graduated from Central High School, I went to West Point, the United States Military Academy at West Point. I had a full scholarship. Well, I didn't graduate. I failed chemistry class. I failed calculus. I'd done well in all the other things. I had to come home. People look at that as like a failure.
Yeah.
Well, I learned from that, and I graduated with honors from Penn State. I went on to Georgetown Law School. But for every success, there have been lots of failures. And when you do fail, don't just give up. Or don't let other people tell you you have no value or that there's no future for you. Just never give up. And just use those setbacks as a way, as a springboard to the future.
What was the hardest lesson you've ever learned, and how did it shape the way you lead today?
There's so many different ways I could answer that. But I think the greatest lesson I ever learned was when I found myself in solitary confinement. I had lost everything. And I had to learn to look at every situation as a blessing. And that there was some reason. And I found myself in solitary confinement. And later, a guy told me that he didn't commit suicide because he saw that I hadn't given up. So you never know when you're in a situation how it impacts other people. And so I just really learned to not give up and to rejoice always, to give thanks in every circumstance, and to try to learn from that, and just to do the best I can in the next minute. You know?
Why is critical thinking one of the most important tools for students, especially in today's world of social media and misinformation?
Well, that's a great question because, everybody doesn't understand what critical thinking means. But just because I read something I see a picture on social media that says, oh, this is what the world looks like. People have propaganda, people have their own bias. So to be a critical thinker, I think is the most important thing that you can learn as a student is you want to get information from a lot of different places. You have to recognize a place that's a reliable source, something that's not a reliable source, and to learn how to synthesize all these different things and to come up with what really is the truth. But I think part of being a critical thinker is that you need to read a lot. I have a daughter who wanted to be a writer. I said, well, to be a great writer, you need to be a great reader. So I would suggest that you read lots of different things, different genres, read science fiction, read novels of like Sherlock Holmes, read something fun, read something that you would never learn about. Just read as much as you can. Just gather as much information as possible.
You mentioned the power of internships and mentorship. Can you talk about a mentor who changed your life and how students can find one?
That's a great question. So one of the greatest mentors in my life, other than my father, was a gentleman named Mr. Watson. And Mr. Watson had graduated from high school in Philadelphia, but he served in the Army. But he worked at the Frankfurt Arsenal. He was a machinist. He made things with his hands. But he was just a great role model. He worked at my church, and I went with him every Saturday morning. I helped clean up the church, and he taught karate school. I went to karate school where he taught. And so he was just a great person to teach me life lessons. What I try to tell my daughters and my students, because I have 3 daughters, Taylor, Hope, and Alicia, and they look very similar to you. What I try to tell my daughters is that getting a mentor is very, very important. And what do I mean by that? So what do you want to be when you grow up, Noah?
I'm not 100% sure yet. So.
Okay, what are some of your options?
I was thinking about like a mechanic or even a electrician. Okay. Because I really like the things that we do in here.
How about yourself, Julia?
That's the thing. I like to do so many things that's so difficult to choose.
Well, that's great. So you might think you could be a great TV reporter one day, right? Or an anchor person, right? So what I would say is, whatever your interests are, maybe being a mechanic, maybe being an electrician, go and talk to people that have done that, right? Ask them questions. Go and volunteer at, if you're interested in being, a reporter, go see if you can be a volunteer, an intern at the Inquirer or Channel 6, right? My youngest daughter, Hope, wanted to be a veterinarian for a long time. So I got her a volunteer position when she was maybe 14 at our veterinarian's office. So she thought she wanted to help animals. Her very first day, she was there, and they were performing a surgery on a cat's eye. And she got a little woozy in the operating room just watching that. And so she knew she didn't want to become a veterinarian anymore. But you want to pick something, several things, go and volunteer to start. I know it's difficult because you want to make money, but try to get your foot in the door as a volunteer, and then you will learn from people that have done that job, and they will become a part of your network of people that can give you advice, or if there's a new job opportunity or a scholarship at college or a high school after-school program, those people will be the ones that can help you navigate, should I do this, should I do that? Because you can learn a lot from other people, from the mistakes that they've made, and they'll tell you, well, I should have done this. I could have done this. Maybe this is an opportunity for you. And so creating and finding mentors that can serve you and that you can learn from will be a great tool and of great value to you as you try to figure out what high school, what college, what major, where should I, all those things, those people can help you.
You've taught yourself how to play saxophone.
Yes.
What does that say about learning, discipline, and the value of doing something just because you love it?
Right. Well, I always loved the sound of the saxophone. When I was a little kid, I used to watch a TV show called The Pink Panther. It was a cartoon. And it came ba-bum, 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 right? And I just loved the sound of that. But when I was little, when I was in 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, I played the violin. Because my dad had played the violin. I wanted to be just like my dad. He was my hero, my best friend. But I hated playing the violin. It wasn't fun. There was no songs that I could play that were cool on the violin. But later on in life, I always wanted to play the saxophone. And when I found myself with the opportunity, since I knew how to read music, I knew quarter notes, half notes, whole notes. I knew what, how to read music. And I began to teach myself how to play the saxophone. And at first, it sounded terrible. And people would tease me. They would get out of here, go away. And I would play outside, and all these ducks would come around and like honk, honk, honk all around me. It was like I was like Dr. Doolittle with all these ducks playing around me, standing around me while I was practicing. But I didn't give up. And I really loved the sound of the saxophone. And I thought it'd be a great way for me to give glory to God. But also, my father taught himself how to play the ukulele when he was 75. It's always good to continue to expand your mind, to continue to try to learn new things. And so that was part of it. But also, I had to learn how to create. I talked earlier about people that have abuse, like substance abuse, like they're drug addicts or alcoholics, or a good way to have a coping skill is to find something that when you're stressed or you have these feelings that might not be healthy, to find an outlet that is a healthy way. And so for me, playing the saxophone often is a very healthy outlet for me that relieves stress, and it helps me. So just playing the saxophone has been a great tool for me, as you said, for resilience, for fun. And now, people don't just laugh at me when I play. Some people actually come up to me and say, "Oh man, that sounded great." So again, nothing of value comes easy, and so I explained, have you ever seen a TV commercial with the dancing Fruit of the Loom, like the banana and the apple and orange are dancing?
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. Well, I knew a guy that was on that commercial. He was banana number 2, right? And you would think, banana, how big a deal is that, right? Well, he had gone to the Juilliard School of Art where he learned to dance, got a bachelor's degree in dance. When he was in high school, he went to the High School for the Creative and Performing Arts. When he was younger, he went to dance school every day after school. He had bloody ankles, bloody feet. He worked hard for years. And people made fun of him. Why are you going to dance school? And his big break was to become banana number 2, right? And now he has a master's degree. He teaches dance. So no matter what it is, if you want to be a basketball player, Steph Curry is considered the greatest three-point shooter. But he practices 200 three-point shots a day before practice starts. So whatever it is in life, you've got to practice, you've got to try hard, and you've got to put the work in. That's the only way you're really going to achieve.
Last question. If you could go back in time and give 15-year-old Seth Williams one piece of advice, what would it be?
That's a very good question. Well, if I could go back, I would have to tell him that he's not always going to have the long curly hair that he had. That's one thing, and that he has to learn to deal with that. And that I'm proud of the person he became. And for him to continue to learn and to grow and to know that when anytime one door closes, to accept that and recognize that there's another door that's going to open, and to be patient and to just surrender all things to God. That's what I would tell him, and to not be anxious. Yes. Just to never give up.
Thank you for being here today and sharing your story with everyone. And this is the end. Bye.
Thank you, Dope Student Podcast.